Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Danny sent me a note about an HOA out west. Said, Steve, did you see the story? I had not, so thank you very much, my friend. TheDenverChannel.com ran the story, or ABC7, which is the television outlet. HOA forecloses on more than 50 homes. That is 50 homes in the Green Valley Ranch subdivision. Out of Denver, Micah Smith wrote the story. Dozens of homeowners in Denver's Green Valley Ranch neighborhood are facing foreclosure due to the Homeowners Association-related fines and fees. We're talking about an HOA, a homeowners association. Britta Fisher is the director of Denver's Department of Housing Stability, said, what we learned was that of the 119 HOA foreclosures that happened in 2021, 50 were from one HOA that is located in Green Valley Ranch, and that's a pretty disproportionate share of those here in Denver. Records from the city show the HOA responsible for the most HOA foreclosures is Master Homeowners Association for Green Valley Ranch. Fisher said her office has been contacted multiple times by concerned homeowners who didn't know HOAs had the power to foreclose on homes. And that's one of the issues here. Is this can happen to you in an HOA, it can also happen to you in a condo association, depending on the laws of the state you are in. And quite often, when you buy a condo or buy a home in an HOA, they will give you some rules and say, by the way, these rules are something you have to follow. Some states require you to sign a document stating that you've received the rules, read the rules, and agreed to abide by the rules. And so when someone says, I never saw the rules, didn't know the rules existed, this is all news to me, a mistake was made somewhere. And I've heard of people who said, I was never shown these documents, I didn't even know they existed. And so that's the problem. And there is an educational issue here, and that is that people need to know what they're doing when they buy into an HOA or a condominium association if it's got rules like that, where they can actually not just tell you how you are going to live there with respect to like what you can do to the home or the condo, but also what they can do to you if you don't follow the rules. And so when I was in the condominium association, I was actually on the condo board. So I became very, very aware of this stuff. And theoretically, if you did something wrong, such as, I don't know, put a planter on your porch that didn't conform to the rules, theoretically, you could be sent a warning letter, which if you ignored, could be turned into a fine, which if you didn't pay, could be turned into a lien against your condo. Now, when I was on the board, I tried really hard not to have the board doing those things. But once in a while, out of several hundred units, you get somebody who doesn't care about the rules and just goes against them. And depending on what they're doing, you may have to take action. So, HOAs have broad powers for collecting assessments. And when those assessments, whether they're fines, fees, or other assessments, are not paid, they can put a lien on a home. Those liens take precedence over even a mortgage loan. They are through the court system, and there's civil actions, Fisher said. In Colorado, we have quite a few special districts. Special districts also have powers to collect assessments, fines, and fees. You might say, what's an assessment? Well, I can tell you that when I was in the condo association ran all the stuff that was run by the condo association. And so when you buy a condo, quite often you own the inside of the condo, but the outside is owned by the association. And so they will refer to those as common elements. And so the roof on the building was the responsibility of the condo association, not the individual owner. And I was living in condos that were townhouses that were attached in a row, whole bunch of townhouses like this. And one year they discovered that the roofing material was going bad on all of them. They decided to re-roof the entire complex. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, which the condo association did not have laying around. So we had to levy a special assessment for that. And there were people who were unhappy with it, who said, I don't have the money, I can't afford this. And it's like, well, unfortunately, we can't let you leave a bad roof on the building because number one, the roof ain't your responsibility. And number two, the roof affects everybody in the entire association. So if your roof isn't leaking, but someone else's is, that becomes your problem, believe it or not. So Monica Villa, a resident of Green Valley Ranch, said her special district was behind the recent foreclosure on her home. They were issuing a lot of fines for anything. The grass, leaving the trash can out, a lot of fines, $50 or $100. They went all the way up to $8,000. The last time I checked, it was $10,000 in fines. She said her family could not pay those fines, but she did not know that was grounds for foreclosure. She said she did not know the special district foreclosed on her home until the new owner of her home knocked on the door one day. 3 weeks ago, the new owner shows up and he told me, "I'm the new owner. I bought your house." She said her family paid the mortgage on time for nearly 2 decades and her mortgage company is investigating the foreclosure. Now, there are probably some issues there because generally speaking, if your home goes into foreclosure, they have to let you know. And if your home gets auctioned, they've got to tell you about the auction so that you can A, attend, and B, bid if you want to. You are allowed to bid on your own home if it goes into foreclosure. You'll have to outbid some other people probably, but you're allowed to do that. She said, "I'm shocked. I didn't know that an HOA could do that." That's according to her friend, they interviewed. Her friend works at the Community Engagement Center for Denver Public Schools and said several families facing HOA-related foreclosure have asked her for help. After I heard from Monica, a couple of other people reached out for resources. We have a metro district, and I called them just to say, "Hey, I'm just double checking that I don't have any fines that are out there outstanding," and they said no. Meanwhile, the woman who got foreclosed on said, "This is not fair, doing this to us." She said for now her family is out of their house, but they won't stop fighting for their home. On Saturday, Denver's Department of Housing Stability, the Office of Financial Empowerment, and Denver City Council President will host a foreclosure and housing assistance open house for homeowners. The event will be held at the Green Valley Ranch Recreation Center. So if you are in the market for property, you need to know if you're buying a piece of property, a house or whatever, whether that house is part of a homeowners association. If it is, and you're okay with that, read the rules, understand the rules, and then proceed. If you're not okay with that, move on. And I know that if you go onto like a real estate website, like Zillow, and you say you're looking for homes, one of the things you can check is that you do not want a home in an HOA. Because there's that many people out there who don't want to get into an HOA that you can check that box and remove those from your search. And I've had people tell me, and I want to make sure this is clear, there are good sides to an HOA. And I know people who've contacted me and said, "Steve, I live in an HOA and I like it. I like it because there is a certain uniformity to the neighborhood." So you pull into a neighborhood that is an HOA and there's a good chance that the houses tend to blend in better. I'm putting this nicely. And that the yards are a little cleaner and neater. And that's because if the yard ain't clean and neat, you're going to get fined. And if you paint your house a weird color, you're going to get fined. And that's why the houses tend to have a certain uniformity to them. But I've also heard horror stories from people who said they moved into an HOA. They knew it was an HOA, but they thought, well, you know, how much do they really control? And then they changed the color of the curtains inside their living room. And they get a letter that says you cannot use window treatments visible from the outside world that are not of the right color palette. And people go, wait, you can now regulate what I do inside my home? Well, it's visible from outside the home. So HOAs are legal. Condo associations are legal. They're not doing anything illegal when they take these actions. The main difference is how aggressive the enforcement is on the rules. I've spoken to people who said, "Steve, I bought a house in an HOA. I spoke to some people who said, hey, look, we're really, really cool here. We're lax. We don't enforce these rules like militants. And as long as you just keep it reasonable, we don't care." And everybody's actually cool with it. But it's always there in case we need it, that is the rules, but we don't need them that often. We don't enforce them that often. We don't care. And so that's possible too. But one thing you have to remember is that the HOA or the condo association is going to have a board that's probably elected. And once they're elected, this little group of people then speaks for the entire association. If you get the wrong people on that board, bad things can happen. And they will happen. And we all know who these people are, where you're going to have one person who thinks it's their job to clean up the neighborhood. And they're going to be out there with a clipboard, walking around, measuring things, photographing things, looking at things, you know. And so just because the HOA or the condo association is cool now, they might not be cool going down the road. But here's the point. HOA foreclosures have seemed to spike here. And that's because a disproportionate number of them, 50 of them, were done by one HOA. located in the Green Valley Ranch, and that's near Denver. So if you are in an HOA, go read the rules. And if you're thinking about buying a home in an HOA, read them before you buy. And I know people who said, Steve, they told me there's an HOA. I never saw the rules. And that's a problem. You need to see them, especially when someone hands you a form that says, I acknowledge having received something and read it. You have the right to go, I never received this. Show it to me. I want to read it. I'll be committing perjury if I sign this document without reading it. And so that's on you. So, I've had people tell me that later they found out they signed that form because at closing there was a blizzard of documents that they couldn't possibly have read. And one of those forms says they acknowledged reading that rule book. And by the way, it often is a rule book. We're talking about a set of rules. It's not a single page of, you can't paint your house purple and you got to bring your trash cans in. No. It's quite often complex. So you got to be careful. But it's a crazy story due to the number of foreclosures in this particular development. Danny sent it. Thanks a lot. The DenverChannel.com published at ABC7, and Micah Smith wrote it. HOA forecloses on more than 50 Green Valley Ranch homes. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Sunset is a wonderful opportunity for us to appreciate all the great things the sun gives us.